This is a presentation of Attorney Kenneth Haber from Boyd's, Maryland. The moderator here is Attorney Ramesh Khurana from the Khurana Law Firm. This week, Attorney Khurana has questions for Attorney Haber on discrimination under Section 1557 of the Affordable Care Act of Discrimination. What an interesting topic. Let's view it together.
I'm Ramesh Khurana, attorney at law in Gaithersburg, Maryland, and today I have a great privilege in presenting to you Kenneth Haber, who is the former Assistant U.S. Attorney and the former Senior Attorney in the Office of Inspector General. And he is the one who understands nerves and arteries of the Medicare, Medicaid, and other medical issues which are faced by doctors from day-to-day situations. So he is going to answer some of the questions in this session which would be regarding discrimination under Section 1557 of the Affordable Care Act. And first of all, I welcome Mr. Haber to our studio. Welcome.
Thank you, Ramesh. Thank you very much.
He is a well-renowned attorney and he is in private practice at this point. As I said, he is the former Assistant U.S. Attorney and he is a very distinguished lawyer. I have the pleasure of referring several cases to Ken Haber, and he has very ably represented all those people I refer to, and he gave good results. So that's why I say I have a great pleasure in presenting to the audience on this channel, which is the Capital Forum. Thank you for being with us. Ken, what provision exists under the Affordable Care Act pertaining to discrimination? Now, can consumer be denied health insurance based on age or disability? Does it apply to the marketplaces and to all plans offered by insurers that participate in those marketplaces? Would you like to answer this question?
Yes, and yes.
Okay, great.
Yes. It applies to sex, national origin, the standard ones, but it adds sex to it. Race, color, national origin, age, disability. It covers the whole gamut, but sex is added in there, and which was not necessarily covered previously under a patch quilt of civil rights statutes, although a person could make an argument under some of them that they would have applied, but here they made it explicit in this statute. And the sex that they're talking about here is not only just, oh, you can't discriminate between men and women, but it's also transgender. It's also dealing with sexual identity. It covers the whole gamut of sexuality, the human experience of sexuality. And it does also apply to the insurance companies that work through the portal. It's interesting because I always advise clients that they have to treat the insurance companies working through the portals the same way as they would treat Medicare, Medicaid in terms of any violations of the Medicare, Medicaid statutes, because of the fact that these are incorporated by statute and they're going to be in due course by regulation actually enforced in terms of the contractual relationships you can have and can't have in terms of anti-kickbacks, stark type of violations. This, though, is considered a milestone Civil Rights Act because of the fact it's so comprehensive in one statute for so much, especially when you consider how healthcare covers the whole gamut of things. There's even in terms of language proficiency that they view this because of national origin. So where hospitals might have somebody who can translate maybe sometime for the patient, now they have to have people who can translate for the patient. So that opens up a whole new box of employment for people, because of the fact that if you're seeing people on any sort of regular basis of a particular national origin, you better have a translator to be able to service them. And depending on the volume, you may need a number of translators. It's not just a nice accommodation, it's a mandatory necessity now. The proposed regulations apply to the healthcare programs and activities that receive funding from HHS, hospitals, Medicare, Medicaid, all across the board. So it's not just the Affordable Care Act with the portals, but everything across the board. What you ought to also remember about that is that when something applies to Medicare, that's translated because Medicare has all these different contractors that are insurance companies. It applies across the board because they pick it up having to enforce it for Medicare, Medicaid, they enforce it for everything, and the companies that get involved with the third-party payers are going to then have to, comply with the mandates.
Interesting. Now, can you please explain what are some of the protections available against sex discrimination? Can somebody be denied health insurance coverage because of sex?
They cannot now. And it's not so much denial of the service, but denial of, or not denial of insurance, but denial of service. If a man's going to be able to get Viagra, in order to be able to improve his performance, then if something comes on the market that would permit a woman to enhance her performance, she's going to be entitled to that. And there's probably something out there right now that I'm just not aware of at the moment. But
I know discussion is going on. Probably they are very close to the fact that they have developed some kind of Viagra to help ladies, but I don't think it's in the marketplace as yet.
I think you're right. I think it's under FDA review at this point in time.
Right.
But that would be mandated that they be able to get that, so that that there is no discrimination. So it's not the overt type of discrimination of, saying that you can't have employment or something like that. It's, what services you're going to be able to receive across the board. Goes towards transgender identification, which raises a number of issues in terms of, if a person who is originally a man, identifies as a female and has an operation which may or may not be covered, I would imagine they're going to probably say it has to be covered. And I'm not taking a position whether it should or shouldn't. The law will decide whether it is or isn't. I'm just raising it as an issue because then that person then comes to the hospital. That person gets put into a room with a man or a woman. And what about the person who's in that room, about their feelings, which then also implicates HIPAA, because how would that person know
Very sensitive
whether or not that person is or isn't, originally fitted with the modifications that they had. So there's all sorts of issues that come about from that, and if the hospital gives the person a private room, then the person who received the private room might feel discriminated against anyways because of the fact that everyone else has double rooms, 2 patients to a room, there's no one to talk to. So, I'm just raising issues. I don't know how they're going to be settled. So it's just all part of the law that is going to be enforced initially, obviously, by regulators and then by the courts.
Yeah. Now, again, coming back to Section 1557 of the Affordable Care Act, now we did talk about sex discrimination, and you did mention a little bit about other types of discrimination. I just want to clarify whether Section 557 covers just the sex discrimination or all types of discrimination?
All types of discrimination: national origin, race, religion,
nationality.
Age, nationality, exactly.
Okay.
That's how come they have to have interpreters now, If they don't have interpreters, they're going to be considered out of compliance. If they've got a patient who needs an interpreter, it'll be a violation not to have that interpreter, because those are the regulations that are being put in place to enforce that national origin.
No, Ken, just clarify it. Let us say that non-English speaking patient comes into the office, and let's say that he speaks only Spanish, and doctor doesn't understand Spanish, and no other staff member understands Spanish, and no interpreter is available. So what the doctor has to do under circumstances? Can the doctor reschedule the appointment of this patient, or how is going to?
Might be medically necessary not to reschedule it. I don't have the answer for that in terms of what the regulations are going to look like when you're talking about a doctor's office, because that raises a good question I hadn't even thought about, because I was thinking about hospitals.
Right.
But here's somebody coming in under the insurance program.
Right.
That say speak Spanish. No one in the doctor's office speaks Spanish. They can call up my wife and have her for a good sum of money come and translate, I suppose.
So that means whenever there is a call from the patient to make an appointment in a doctor's office, I think it's incumbent upon the receptionist to ask which language do you speak, so that we can make arrangements for the interpreter. If a doctor or any staff member doesn't know about it.
It may come to that,
Honestly,
because of the fact that the doctor's office will be covered. If he's taking the insurance, he'll be covered, by the same non-discrimination. The question is, when they're putting regulations together, they may make accommodations for the size of doctor's offices versus hospitals, which have more resources to provide for it. I don't know. I don't have the answer.
Okay, then this gives rise to another question. Whenever you have to use the services of an interpreter, it's going to cost money.
Yes.
Because one person is going to come, especially in doctor's office.
Especially if it's my wife, she's going to cost money.
So now, I understand. She will go shopping. Now the point is, who pays for the interpreter's cost? Insurance company is not going to pay for it.
It's a good question.
No,
there's a lot of questions that have not answered yet.
Which are unanswered.
Not unanswered.
So only case law would probably decide it.
Case law or regulatory. There might be portions of regulations that say that in the small doctor's office who doesn't normally have a translator available, that the insurance company has to pay for that. I don't know.
Okay, Ken.
We're talking about something that just
what is the essential,
unveiled as time goes on here.
I know. Now, what is the essential message of section 1557? We are left with 30 seconds.
Don't discriminate.
Don't discriminate.
If you can't,
Good.
what we used to say, if you can't pay the time, don't do the crime.
I like your words. So thank you very much, Ken. We
Thank
appreciate
you.
your coming to our studios, and thank you for answering all the questions. I know section 1557 is very cumbersome, very complicated, and some of the questions are unanswered. Probably courts will decide in the future or regulatory interpretations and explanations. Stay tuned. But we appreciate your answering these questions. I am sure our audience has been greatly benefited. Thank you very much.
Thank you.